Good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about our 5.2 congruent figures. This is kind of an extension of what we've been doing. So far you guys have learned how to identify those corresponding parts, identifying the corresponding angles, the corresponding sides, both by looking at the figure and by looking at the name of the figure. And what we're going to do is we're going to use those corresponding parts to solve for missing pieces in a triangle. So let's start with angles. For example, I could look at my angle markings and tell that I and T are going to be corresponding and congruent because they both have 3 marks in them. So if those 3 have 3 marks, they're corresponding and they are congruent, which means that they're the same exact number. And when you're looking at these congruent figures, all the corresponding parts are exactly the same. So let's say I was 70 degrees. Let me put that in the triangle. I bet I can fit that. Let's say I is 70 degrees. Well, T would also be 70 degrees. Okay, what if I said R was 60 degrees? So if R is 60, then what else would be 60? Well, look at your figure here. I have 2 marks here. Where else do I have 2 marks? Here at S, I have 2 marks. So that angle at the vertex S would also be 60 degrees. And then I could ask you to find, let's say I have 60, 70. I could ask you to find the third angle, because what do we know about the 3 angles in a triangle? What should they add up to? Well, if it's a triangle, then they should add up to 180, right? So if they add up to 180, or 180 degrees, then I can take 180 minus 70 minus 60, or I could add up to 70 and 60 to get 130, and subtract that from 180 to find out what the third angle would be, and that would be 50. So this is 50. That has 1 congruence mark on it. Then the other angle that has 1 congruence mark on it would also be 50 degrees. So I have 70 degrees, 50 degrees, and 60 degrees, and you can see there that those corresponding angles are all exactly the same. I should probably put 50 over here as well. So there's 50. And the same thing works with side lengths. So if I said, let's say this is 8 and this is 6.5. Well, I can use the corresponding parts to find the missing side lengths in the triangle QDP or PDQ. I can use my corresponding parts to find those missing side lengths. Like, let's look at 8. 8 has 3 congruence marks on it. So in the triangle down here, I can look for 3 congruence marks. And that tells me that that would also be 8. And at the 6.5, I have 2 congruence marks. Oh, sorry about that. 2 congruence marks, 1, 2. So the other side that has 2 congruence marks would also be 6.5. So anytime you see corresponding parts in these triangles, they're going to be equal. It doesn't matter if it's an angle or a side length, the corresponding parts are all going to be equal to each other. Okay, I'm going to skip down to number 1 here. I've got M and P, and if I was going to write my congruence statement, M has 2 marks. That goes with Y. N has 3 marks. That goes with X. And then, where is it? P has 1 mark. That goes with Z. So there's my congruence statement. And if I said NP was 15, MN was 7, then what would my sides be in Y, X, Z? Well, 15 has 2 congruence marks next to it. So the one with 2 congruence marks next to it in that other triangle would also be 15, and that would make yx 7. So you could see nm or mn corresponds to yx. So yx and mn would both be equal. Those would be 7. All right, let's skip down here. I want to look at 5 through 9. We're going to talk about how I can find those corresponding parts. So in 5 through 8, triangle XYZ is corresponding or congruent to, so that's congruent to MNL. I'm going to copy and complete that statement. All right, angle Y. I want to find angle Y. There's a couple things I could do. I could look at Y in the name and figure out that corresponds to N. So let's look at N and look at Y. I don't know what Y is, but I know what N is. N is 124 degrees. So if N is 124, then Y should also be 124 degrees. M, where's M? M is the first letter, corresponds with X. Here's X. Here's M. I don't know what M is, but I know what X is. X is 33. So M is 33. And then I've got angle Z corresponds to angle L. I don't know what Z is, and I don't know what L is. Okay, so how do I find that? Well, we knew Y was 124. I knew M was 33. But I'm missing my third angle. So how do I find the third angle in a triangle? Well, how did we do that before? Oh, that's not a triangle. That's a triangle. How did I do that before when I had 124 and 33? Well, I know that these three angles should add up to 180. So I could take 180 minus 124 minus 33 to figure out what Z is. And Z would be 23, which means that L is also 23 because those are corresponding parts. All right, and last but not least here, XY. What is XY? Well, XY, I don't know what XY is, but XY corresponds to MN. So MN, I do know that. That's 8, which means that XY would also have to be 8. And that's all you need to know to solve your homework problems. If you look at 1, 2, 3, and 4, I give you 2 angles and I ask you to find the third one. And 5, 6, 7, and 8, I'm giving you, well, 5 and 7, I give you 2 angles. I ask you to find the third one. 6, I give you all 3 angles. You just have to find the corresponding parts. And again, you're looking at those angle markings. So if A is 59, has 3 angle markings, look for the 3 angle markings over here, and those are going to be equal numbers. So for example here, Y would be 59 because 3 angle markings, those are equal. Y is 59. And then like I said, for those other 3, you're going to have to find your missing third angle, and that will tell you what the measure of angle 1 or the measure of angle R would be. Please send me an email or join office hours from 1:15 to 2:15 to let me know what questions you have, and I will help you guys out with that as best I can. I hope you have a great weekend, and I will see you in class Monday.